My wife is pregnant. But I'm infertile. Hi, my name's John. I thought I had it all. Perfect job, beautiful wife. Everything seemed perfect. But then one morning, my wife came to me with a pregnancy test in her hand. We're going to be parents, she said. But here's the thing. I'm infertile. So how could she be pregnant? The morning was like any other. I woke up to the sound of my alarm buzzing relentlessly, grabbed my phone and checked the time. 7 a.m. Another busy day ahead. I stretched, groggy but ready to start the day. I had a meeting at work that I couldn't miss, and my wife Anna was already in the kitchen, humming and getting breakfast ready. "Morning, sleepyhead," she called out to me, her voice light and cheerful as always. She had that energy that was contagious. I smiled, rubbed my eyes and walked into the kitchen. The smell of coffee filled the air and I couldn't help but feel a little lucky. Life seemed perfect. "Coffee's ready, and your eggs are on the stove," she said, pouring me a cup before I even had the chance to ask. She always did that. Anticipated everything I needed and more. It felt like I couldn't have asked for a better partner. "Thanks, babe," I said, kissing her on the cheek as I took my seat. She looked so radiant this morning, and I couldn't help but notice the glint in her eyes. It was the kind of look she had when she was about to say something big. Something important. I didn't know how right I was. As I sipped my coffee, Anna moved to the counter, grabbing something small from her bag. She turned to me holding a pregnancy test in her hands. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared for what she was about to say. "John, look, it's positive. We're going to be parents," she said, a smile spreading across her face as if this was the best news in the world. My mind went blank. I stared at the test in her hand. I couldn't process it. I tried to speak, but the words didn't come out right. "Wait, what?" She laughed softly. "I've already taken a few more tests and they're all the same. We're having a baby." For a second I felt my stomach churn. My hands shook slightly as I placed the coffee cup back on the table. My mouth went dry. I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to be happy for her, for us, but something didn't add up. I couldn't stop the one thought that kept echoing in my mind. This isn't possible. I'm infertile. The doctors told me years ago I would never be able to father children. I've had surgeries, treatments, tests. It's been confirmed. There's no way she could be pregnant. "Anna, this can't be real," I stammered, the words barely leaving my lips. I'm infertile. We can't have kids." She froze. Her smile faltered for a second and then she laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. "Oh, come on, John. Don't joke like that. We're about to be parents." She gave me a playful shove, but I could tell she wasn't entirely sure what I was saying. "No, Anna. I'm serious." My voice dropped, suddenly cold and heavy with the weight of the truth. "I'm infertile. This doesn't make sense. There's no way." Her smile vanished completely. She set the test down on the counter and walked closer to me. "What are you talking about? This test doesn't lie. I'm pregnant, John. We're going to have a baby." I shook my head in disbelief. "But I can't. I can't have kids. We've been through this before. You know what the doctors said." Anna took a step back, her eyes scanning my face, searching for any sign that I was joking. But I wasn't. This wasn't a joke. This was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Maybe you're wrong," I said, trying to push the thought out of my mind. "Maybe it's just a mistake. Maybe there's another explanation." But as soon as the words left my mouth, I realized how ridiculous they sounded. There was no mistake. I knew what I was and I knew what I wasn't. This wasn't possible. "So, you're saying this baby isn't mine?" I asked, the question hanging in the air between us like a dagger. She froze again, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. I felt a wave of nausea hit me. How is this even happening? "Anna, this doesn't make sense. If I can't have kids, then how are you pregnant?" She shook her head in disbelief. "John, you're scaring me. What are you trying to say? That this baby isn't yours?" The hurt in her voice was palpable, and I could see the confusion clouding her expression. "How could you even think that?" "I don't know," I muttered. "I don't know. But something's wrong." The silence between us was deafening. I wanted to reach out to her, to hold her, but the doubt was consuming me. How could I stand here, pretending everything was fine, when deep down I knew something wasn't right? "I need to think," I finally said, backing away. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Anna standing there, still holding the test, her face filled with confusion and hurt. But as I stepped into the living room, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. This was just the beginning and I had no idea where it would end. I could barely sleep that night. Anna's words echoed in my head over and over. We're going to be parents. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. There was no way this was happening. I couldn't have children, and yet Anna was pregnant. The questions were piling up in my mind and I needed answers. But I wasn't sure if I was ready for what I might find. The night dragged on. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, each tick of the clock seeming louder than the last. My thoughts kept racing, and every time I closed my eyes, the image of Anna's excited face, her smile, her sparkling eyes, flashed before me. We're going to be parents. But how? It didn't make sense. I had been diagnosed with azoospermia years ago. The doctors told me I couldn't have children. They had run tests, given me the facts, and I accepted it. Anna knew this too. She had stood by me through it all. So how could she be pregnant? I turned to my side, hoping that the darkness would bring me peace, but instead, it only deepened my confusion. Could the doctors have been wrong? Could I have been misdiagnosed? Or was there something I didn't know about Anna? The bed creaked as Anna shifted next to me. I held my breath, hoping she wouldn't wake up. I wasn't sure I was ready to confront her yet. I needed answers, but I wasn't sure how to ask without making her think I doubted her. I sat up in bed, my hands running through my hair in frustration. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe Anna wasn't lying. But the nagging thought in the back of my mind refused to leave. What if she was hiding something from me? I glanced at the clock again, 3:45 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Every minute felt like an eternity. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand, the screen casting a cold light across the dark room. I didn't want to do this, but I had to. I dialed the number of my doctor, hoping for some clarity. The phone rang, and after what seemed like an eternity, Dr. Patel answered, his voice groggy. John? Is everything okay? No, I said, my voice tight. I need to ask you something. Are you sure? Are you sure I'm infertile? I mean, is there any chance I could be wrong? I heard a sigh on the other end of the line, and I could almost imagine Dr. Patel shaking his head. John, we've been over this before. The tests were conclusive. You have azoospermia. There's no way you can father children. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to explain it any other way. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach twisted in knots and I could feel my heart pounding. But Anna's pregnant. How is that even possible? Another long pause. I understand this is difficult for you, but you need to accept the facts. Sometimes, when emotions run high, we can misunderstand the situation. I suggest you talk to Anna. She may have some answers for you. I felt a sense of defeat wash over me. The reality of the situation hit harder than anything else. If I'm infertile, how could she be pregnant? I ended the call, staring at my phone in silence. It was clear now, I was in a mess of emotions I didn't know how to navigate. I wanted to believe Anna, I really did, but there was too much doubt clouding my mind. I needed the truth and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. I stood up, pacing around the room, my mind racing in every direction. I couldn't just let this go. Anna was pregnant, but how? How could this be? I took a deep breath and decided that I needed to talk to her. But I wasn't sure how to begin. How could I ask her the questions I had without sounding like I didn't trust her? Could she be hiding something? The thought alone made my chest tighten with anxiety. I walked back to the bed, standing over Anna as she slept peacefully, unaware of the storm swirling in my mind. She looked so innocent, so happy in her dreams. I couldn't believe that the woman I loved could be hiding anything from me. But there was no denying the facts. If I was infertile, this baby couldn't be mine. The sound of Anna shifting in bed brought me back to reality. I gently sat down on the edge of the bed, watching her for a moment. I had to confront her. I couldn't go on like this with all these unanswered questions. The truth had to come out no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Anna was already in the kitchen, humming to herself as she prepared breakfast. She was wearing one of my old t-shirts, her hair still messy from sleep. She looked so carefree, so happy. It was like nothing had changed, but I knew it had. She was carrying our baby, or at least that's what she said. And I had no idea how to process it. Good morning, she said cheerfully, handing me a cup of coffee. I was thinking we could start making a list of baby names today. What do you think? I smiled weakly, my stomach doing flips. Baby names? How could we be talking about that when everything felt so wrong? How could I be the father when I knew I couldn't have kids? Anna, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, we need to talk. Her smile faltered slightly, but she didn't let it show. She sat down across from me, her eyes searching my face. What's wrong, John? You've been acting strange since last night. Is everything okay? I stared at her for a long moment, trying to find the right words. How are you pregnant? I asked finally, the question coming out sharper than I intended. I can't have kids. You know that. So how is this even possible? The color drained from her face, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear, uncertainty. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. I leaned forward, my heart racing. Anna, please. Just tell me the truth. How are you pregnant? Her lips trembled as she looked down, clearly struggling to find the words. After a long pause, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. John, there's something I need to tell you. Something I wasn't ready to say. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my chest. Whatever she was about to say, I wasn't ready for it. But I had to hear it. I had to know the truth. I didn't know what I was expecting, but what Anna said next hit me like a freight train. It shattered the fragile hold I had on reality, and I couldn't figure out how to process it. The walls I had built around myself came crashing down, and in the rubble, the truth stood before me, raw and undeniable. John, there's something I need to tell you. Something I wasn't ready to say. Anna's voice wavered, barely above a whisper. She was sitting across from me, her hands trembling as she clutched her coffee mug. My heart raced in my chest as I leaned forward, not sure I wanted to hear what she was about to say, but knowing I had to. Anna, please. Just tell me. How are you pregnant? She paused, her eyes darting between mine, searching for something, as if trying to find a way to make the words less painful. It's not exactly what you think. My stomach tightened with fear, and I could feel a cold sweat breaking out on the back of my neck. What do you mean? What do you mean it's not what I think? I could barely get the words out, my mind racing with 1,000 scenarios, none of them making any sense. Anna closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath, before meeting my gaze again. John, I'm not sure how to explain this, but I didn't get pregnant the way you think. I blinked, my mind struggling to keep up. What does that mean? You didn't get pregnant the way I think? Anna, you're scaring me. Her lips trembled, and she placed her mug down on the table with a soft clink. She stood up from the table, pacing the room, her hands running through her hair in frustration. I never wanted to tell you this, but now I don't have a choice. I wasn't sure how you'd react. React to what? I demanded, my voice rising slightly. Tell me, Anna. I need to know. She stopped pacing and turned to face me, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and guilt. John, the truth is, I cheated on you. The words hung in the air like a bombshell. I felt the ground beneath me shift, as though the very foundation of everything I knew had just crumbled away. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just stared at her, unable to process what she had just said. I don't understand, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. You cheated on me? With who? When? She lowered her gaze, ashamed. It was a mistake, John. A horrible mistake. I never meant for it to happen, but I was so lost, so confused. I wasn't sure of myself anymore, and I made a choice I regret every day. I felt as though I had been hit by a truck. The pain was immediate, raw, and all-encompassing. I could barely think through the fog of hurt that clouded my mind. You cheated on me, and now you're telling me that the baby is? I don't know for sure, John, Anna interrupted, her voice pleading. But I think the baby might be his. I felt my world shatter in an instant. I could feel the room spinning, the air thick with the weight of her confession. I stood up abruptly, knocking my chair over in the process, but I didn't care. My entire body was shaking, my hands balled into fists at my sides. How long? How long has this been going on? I could barely get the words out, the anger and betrayal choking me. Just a few months before we found out I was pregnant, Anna answered, her voice barely audible. It was only once, but it doesn't matter, does it? It's a mistake that I'll never be able to undo. I was struggling to breathe, to make sense of the chaos in my mind. How could she? How could the woman I loved betray me like this? My chest tightened with rage, with hurt, with disbelief. I don't know what to say to you, Anna, I finally managed to say. I don't even know what to think right now. How could you do this to me? I don't expect you to forgive me, John, she said, her voice breaking. I wanted to be honest with you. I couldn't keep hiding the truth anymore. I ran my hands through my hair in frustration, pacing the room. So, you've been lying to me all this time? You've been telling me we were going to be parents, while all along you knew the truth? I didn't know how to tell you, Anna whispered. I thought if I could just get through this pregnancy, maybe we could start fresh. Maybe things would be okay. But I can't live with this secret anymore. It's eating me alive, John. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. She wanted to start fresh? How could anything beat okay after this? How could she think that I would ever be able to look at her the same way again? I felt tears sting the back of my eyes, but I couldn't let them fall. Not yet. Not in front of her. You think we can just pretend this never happened? You think I can just move on from this? My voice was rising again, the anger threatening to boil over. I don't know what I was thinking, John, she said, her face crumpling with sorrow. I was scared and I made a mistake. I thought I could fix it, but I can't. I can't fix this. I took a deep breath, my mind reeling with everything she had just told me. There was so much to process, so many questions that I couldn't even begin to ask. What was I supposed to do with this information? Do you even love me anymore? I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. The vulnerability in my voice took me by surprise. Anna's face fell and her shoulders slumped in defeat. I love you, John. I always have. But I can't undo what I've done. I don't know what to do now. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in what felt like forever. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought I could trust with everything, was standing before me, broken and shattered. And yet, despite everything, I could still see the person I loved in her eyes. But could I ever forgive her? Could I ever move past this? I don't know if I can forgive you, Anna, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. But I need time. I need time to think. Her face crumbled further and she nodded silently. The silence between us was deafening, and I knew that things would never be the same. The foundation of our relationship had been shattered, and no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't sure I could rebuild it. After days of silence, the weight of the truth had grown unbearable. I knew I couldn't live like this, avoiding Anna, avoiding the child, and most of all, avoiding the decision I needed to make. I had to face the reality of what had happened, no matter how much it hurt. It was late evening, the kind of night where the silence pressed down on you, heavy and inescapable. I sat at the dining table, staring at the untouched plate of food Anna had left for me. It had been days since her confession, and the distance between us had become a chasm. Yet tonight, I knew that had to change. Anna, I called, my voice cutting through the stillness of the house. She appeared in the doorway of the guest room, her face pale and drawn. She looked exhausted, as if the weight of her guilt had been physically crushing her. Yes, she asked, her voice soft, tentative. Sit down, I said, motioning to the chair across from me. She hesitated for a moment before walking over, her hands wringing nervously. She sat, avoiding my eyes, the tension between us thick enough to cut with a knife. We can't keep living like this, I began, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. This silence, this avoidance, it's killing me. And I know it's killing you too. Anna nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I know, she whispered. I didn't know how to fix it. I leaned forward, placing my hands flat on the table. You can't fix it, Anna. What's done is done. But what we can do is figure out where we go from here. She looked up at me, her expression a mix of hope and fear. What do you mean? I said, taking a deep breath, we need to talk about everything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. I need to know everything, Anna. Who is he? Does he know about the baby? And why? She flinched at the directness of my questions but nodded. You deserve the truth. For the first time in days she looked me in the eye. His name is Mark. He's someone I work with. It happened once, John. Just once. I was feeling lost. You were working so much and I felt like we were drifting apart. It's not an excuse, I know that. But it's the truth. Her words stung, but I forced myself to stay calm. Does he know about the baby? Anna shook her head quickly. No. I haven't told him. I don't even talk to him anymore. As far as he knows, it was just a mistake we both agreed to forget. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process her words. Part of me wanted to lash out, to scream at her for betraying me. But another part of me, a quieter part, couldn't ignore the sadness in her voice, the pain in her eyes. And the baby? I asked, my voice softer now. Do you believe it's his? Her face crumpled and tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know, John. I want to believe it's ours. I want to believe that despite everything, this baby could be the miracle we always dreamed of. But I can't promise that. Her honesty cut through me like a knife. For days I had been clinging to the hope that somehow, some way this child could still be mine. That hope was slipping through my fingers now and I didn't know how to hold on to it. I don't know if I can do this, Anna, I admitted, my voice breaking. I don't know if I can raise a child that might not be mine. Every time I look at you, every time I think about this baby, all I can feel is the betrayal. She sobbed quietly, her shoulders shaking. I don't blame you, John. I don't. But I love you and I need you to know that. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. And I believe deep down that we can get through this. That we can find a way to heal. I shook my head, standing abruptly. I don't know if I believe that, Anna. I don't know if I can trust you again. She stood too, desperation etched across her face. Then let's take a paternity test. Let's find out the truth, John. If this baby isn't yours, I'll leave. I'll give you the space you need. But if there's even a chance, if there's even the smallest chance that this child is ours, don't we owe it to ourselves to try? Her words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. A paternity test. The definitive answer to the question that had been tearing me apart. I'll think about it, I said finally, my voice weary. But Anna, if we do this, if we move forward, you have to understand that things will never be the same. We can't just go back to how things were. She nodded, her tears still falling. I understand. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, John. I just want a chance to make this right. I turned away from her, unable to look at her any longer. My heart ached, torn between the love I still felt for her and the unbearable weight of her betrayal. As I walked out of the room, I realized that the decision ahead of me was not just about Anna or the baby or even myself. It was about whether or not I could believe in second chances. And as much as I hated to admit it, part of me wanted to believe.